Episode number 134.
Hello, you're listening to the Career Changemaker podcast. Having the courage to leave a career that you have worked hard to build and try something else can be tough. So in each episode, we dive into key career change strategies so that you have a clear understanding of what is required to transition into a new role or a new industry without feeling like you have to start at the bottom or have to take a massive pay cut, because ain't nobody got time for that. If you are ready for frank and honest discussions about how to become a career change maker, keep listening. I'm your host, lawyer turned career strategist and executive coach, Janine Esbrand. Are you eager to get unstuck and figure out what you would actually like to do with your career next? Have you been going around in circles trying to figure it out but getting no further forward? If so, you're going to love today's sponsor, my signature group program, the Career Clarity Academy. Changing career direction can feel overwhelming and daunting, but it doesn't have to be. In my signature program, we give you clear, step-by-step, proven processes for getting completely clear on what it is that you want to do and understanding how you can leverage your existing experience and position yourself to attract and land a dream role. To find out more, head over to lightboxcoaching.com/academy. Hello, and welcome to the show. I am excited to share with you today because I'm interviewing an amazing woman who is the co-founder of a company called OwnTrail. And we are going to be talking about the different ways that you can go about progressing in your career and in your life journey, and the fact that everybody has their own trail, and it is absolutely okay for your journey to look linear. It's okay for your journey to look squiggly. It's okay for your journey to look messy. We can do it in all different ways. And there are women all across the world who are taking ownership of their journeys and sharing their journeys and doing it in such an amazing way. And I love what Katie is going to be sharing with us about her individual career change and her journey, and then the women in her community and how they approach it. So I am sure that you're going to be inspired today, and I hope that you draw from this conversation some inspiration around just getting going with your journey, just getting going and figuring out as you go what it is you really want to be doing with your career. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Kt McBratney. Hi, Katie. I am so excited to interview you. Before we dive into all that I want to get into with you, can you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a bit about you?
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm Kt McBratney. I am the co-founder and chief brand officer at OwnTrail. I'm a marketer by history, but a brand builder and a rabble rouser by mission my entire career. And I'm so excited to be here and to chat with you.
Yes, I'm really excited. There's so much I want to dive into. I know that you've made a big kind of career transition with moving into your role at OwnTrail. Can you share a bit about your backstory? So a bit about where your career began and then what led you to start this business?
Yes. It's interesting because I ended up in marketing because my focus in college and university was to study something that I could get a job in. So while I wanted to find something that aligned with my interests and my skills, it was very much clear that I needed to be able to use that degree. And that's how I landed in marketing, just having a love of writing, of storytelling, of connecting people. And I didn't know where it would take me. And since then, I've gone from having my first role working at one of the best zoos in the world to working in higher education, to running a digital ad agency, to working in all different sectors like e-commerce, automotive, and independent film before going out on my own to found OwnTrail. And while those industries and those roles couldn't be more different, they always fell within the very broad umbrella of marketing. And I knew that the next step in my career would be to work for myself. And I didn't know what form that would take. I thought about potentially becoming a consultant. Would I have an idea of my own that I would want to create a company for outside of the marketing realm? And what led me to OwnTrail, I think, was very part and parcel with what led me to having such an eclectic type of roles previously. And that was a curiosity and an openness to possibilities. And the impetus that led me to co-found OwnTrail was really connecting with my co-founder. And I was fairly recent to moving to Seattle, Washington, here in the US, and had been having a hard time finding my people. I'd only been back to work after having my baby for a few months. So I'd been very much in this bubble. I had been at a company that I loved for many years, but I was pretty insular. And so I went to an event and I met Rebecca and I just liked her. And I asked her out on a friend date. I sent her an email and I was like, I like you. I know you probably have a million people in your inbox asking you to professionally pick your brain. I don't want to ask you to coffee to pick your brain. I want to be your friend. And she said yes. And she told me about this idea she had for a website based on a book she had written. And it was very, very, very much a seed of an idea at the time, but I couldn't let go of it. It kept sitting in my brain. And she told me she wanted a co-founder. And I honestly hadn't been thinking about this coffee date as anything but a chance to make a new friend potentially. So this opportunity to be a co-founder and to build this company from the ground up and really have an impact by empowering women worldwide, in a way, came out of nowhere and in a way made perfect sense. And that's the journey that we embarked on, working on it nights and weekends in late 2019, and then launching publicly and quitting our tech executive jobs just before the pandemic to launch OwnTrail.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love that. There's so many things in there. Firstly, I just want to be like, I totally get it. You know, when you meet someone and you're like, I think you should be my friend. I can honestly say there's probably like 3 or 4 people who are in my life now where it was either me doing that or them doing that, where it's like, I like you. I think we should be friends, like being quite forceful with it, where it's like, I can see that this should be a friendship. And I think a lot of people are hesitant around kind of putting themselves out there and networking and getting to know people because there's that fear of rejection. But I love how you were just like, no, I'm just going to reach out because I feel like she could be a friend. Like, I think that's such a good skill to develop. So
yeah, it's interesting because I don't think of myself as a timid person, and yet sometimes those asks are the hardest. And I think it's because it is personal and it is asking for me. And, research shows that there are gendered norms around this, around women being less likely to make those asks sometimes, even though we have no problem being vulnerable. But sometimes just being like, it's okay. It's okay to ask for something for yourself. And literally, what is the worst thing that can happen? They can say that they're busy. They could maybe be not feeling it back. And that's okay. You'll be right where you are, which is not having that person as a friend. Yes. And you'll know, and you can move forward. Yeah. But chances are, and I wonder if this is true for your experiences, almost every single time they're feeling it too. And they're so glad that you asked.
Yep, 100%. It's like, yeah, I felt that too. And then it goes, you never know where it's going to go. The other thing that you mentioned, which is really interesting, was that you said you knew that you wanted to work for yourself, but you didn't quite know what that was going to look like. How did you know that you wanted to work for yourself?
That's a great question. I think it started more as an instinct before I actually knew it and could articulate it. And it was born out of a few things. I was senior enough in my career to have an idea of some of the different paths that were in front of me, moving up in advancing in a corporate world, which wasn't the right culture fit for me. And then in early stage startups and technology companies, realizing that I was in a position that the only other roles available would have been CEO or very similar. And those roles are usually by the founder of the company, who this company is their life work. And they're not going anywhere. I had been the chief marketing officer at a company at Seed and Spark for nearly 4 years at this time. And I loved the company and the mission, and I still do. And I love the team. And as much as I believed in it, it wasn't my true calling. So to lead that company as CEO not only wasn't a fit because it wasn't my purpose, but also it was the purpose of the person who was in that role. And so I think by understanding that kind of almost just like a very logic-based way was one side of it. The other side was emotionally recognizing where I felt I did my best work and was my happiest, and where that happiness and that work extended into my time outside of the quote unquote office. And that was when I was doing things on my terms, building value-led companies, being able to show up truly as myself, being able to bring my weird to the office, and knowing that the right next step would be to truly fully do that on my terms, and let go of some of the safety nets I had been relying on in some ways, of saying like, yes, I can be myself and I can lean into my strengths and I can grow and develop in this environment. But I also have a little bit of the safety net of not being the one in charge.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I say to people a lot, so clients that I work with who are considering making a career move, there's two parts to it. There's the what do you want to do? And then secondly, there's the how. But often people try and figure out the how, and that causes them to not even go for it. So I love that you were like, okay, I know that I need to work for myself. I haven't quite figured out how that's going to happen, but I'm open to the possibility, but I know that that's what I'm working towards. And having that in mind means that you notice opportunities. And that's kind of like what happened for you. It's like, I'm open, I'm just going for a coffee chat and oh, here's this opportunity. And it's just incredible how it's all worked from there.
Absolutely. And it also allowed me to notice things before that opportunity. So I paid attention in a different way to friends who were consultants, either consultants with very, very corporate clients, consultants with a very specific, narrow focus, more broad, almost like patchwork type of entrepreneurs who had different businesses that structured together made up more than a full-time plate. And people that started all different kinds of companies, be it a local brick and mortar to online boutiques to tech startups, and just noticing and just being open to learning about their stories was really helpful in knowing what felt interesting to me, and then also gaining a knowledge of different ways of the how. So I didn't have to figure out the how because I could see that there were so many different ways to do it, and really witnessing that what made so many of these people not just successful on paper or monetarily, but what made them happy was knowing their reason for having that business.
Yeah. So good. So good. So many of your community are women from all over the world who have made various transitions on the career side, but also life transitions. So like, what do you see as some of the common challenges that people face when they're either going through periods of transition or embarking on periods of transition? Because I think people feel held back, but yet you have all of these incredible people who are moving forward despite the fear or despite the obstacles. So kind of what's been your experience, either personally or as you connect with people inside of your community around the challenges?
That's a great question. And I also wonder how I would answer it a year ago before OwnTrail, because now, we have thousands of data points around women on these journeys, because OwnTrail specifically weaves the personal and the professional. And that's, in my experience, very much the reality of our reasons for making choices or for holding back. It's never purely professional. It's never purely the numbers. It's never purely the bureaucracy. And it's never purely our own emotions and feelings. And so for me personally, I've always felt more guided by that sense of purpose. And it's the ability to look at the obstacles that I've overcome or the unique situations that I've been in. For example, this is something that is so common and also yet so unique to each person, but becoming a parent and how that can shift your perspective, or how it can reinforce or validate how you're already choosing to live your life or handle your career. I think that there's often a lot of attention given to someone becoming a parent and having an absolute aha moment and pivoting their life completely. And that's immensely powerful. There's also a lot of power to to an experience like mine, which is a bit quieter, but is still very loud in how I live my life. And it reinforced the choices I was making to focus on work and life integration, to have a career that I was excited about and would be proud to talk to my child about. And while that's not like this sexy Hollywood, like light bulb moment, it's still really powerful. And so I think what I've learned in my experiences and also in bearing witness really to so many amazing stories from the community on OwnTrail is that there's a lot of power in listening to the quiet moments as well as the loud. You don't have to have, this absolute life-changing experience that everyone can see to have an absolutely life-changing experience.
Yes, that is so, so powerful. Particularly because I feel like sometimes people are waiting for that big moment, or they're waiting for the light bulb to go off as their kind of catalyst for change, when actually it's all of the little things. It's like the breadcrumbs that if you pay attention to, you'll notice. But sometimes you're like waiting. Well, I haven't got that confirmation. I'm just waiting. And it's like, well, you've got to take some action and you've got to like pay attention. And I love that. Like, it doesn't have to be huge in someone else's book. It's like, it could be huge for you. That's so, so big.
And it's all really, to me, it's all a series of steps, right? Just like that coffee chat that led it to something that changed the course of my career and my life. It was one small step. And that's really what I feel like any pivot, any big decision is. It's a series of small steps and it results in a big move. But it's just, to your point, it's taking this action. And It can be a tiny step and it can be a big leap. And I've found that in the times where I'm least confident, or I'm either end of the spectrum. I either take the small step just to say that I got moving, or I do a completely blind leap into the dark. And what I've learned from entrepreneurship thus far is that so many of us are making it up after we've left. That is the reality. And I think back to when I was young and I realized that my parents were learning as they were going. They were new to this. This idea that grownups have it all figured out, I think is very analogous to people considering life changes as they see other people and they're like, they've got it all figured out. Nope, they do not. They might look like it. They might fake it really well, but inside they are just making it up, learning as they go. Everybody is a beginner at what they're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've realized that even more now as a parent when my son and my daughter, more so my son because he's older, ask me stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to this question. What do I say to him? And it's got to the point now where if he can sense that I'm going to say I don't know, he's like, it's okay, Mum, I'll just ask Google. He's like, hey, Google. And I'm like,
I love that.
Not good. I wish I did know the answer. But it's so true. We're all learning and it's all a journey. So this idea that everything has to be perfect and you have to have everything figured out before you move it really does cause people to like not move forward. And I was saying this to some clients the other day that if you think about it, anytime you get promoted, like you're moving into a role that you've never done before. And the decision to promote you is based on your track record of being able to figure things out at that level. And now it's just being able to figure things out at a new level. So why do you think you should have it figured out if you've never done it? It's kind of crazy to think, I can't do that because I've never done it before. I couldn't be a CEO. I've never run a company before. It's like, yeah, but you've never done a lot of things. And then you did it. And then you've done it. And then you figured it out,
And then if you look at all of these, the idols in the business world and people want to be like this person and want to be like this person, they were new at it at one point in time. And they're handling new challenges every day. Just because you've held a title before or you've been the CEO of the same company for many years. Like I think about some of the recent companies that have gone public here, led by women, like Bumble or Honest Company with Jessica Alba. She was never a CEO before. She was never a founder of a company. She was an actress and a performer and a mom. Do you know how many people probably thought you can't do this? I remember reading articles saying she couldn't do that. And she did it.
Yeah.
She did it. And I think part of that, there's a lot of strength in doing what you do with your kids, which is like saying, I don't know, and figuring it out together. And I think that type of leadership and also that type of self-awareness to acknowledge, I don't know, and I'm going to figure it out, is massively powerful. And I have a feeling that it's something that already happens with your clients, is in their heads, they're already like, but I can figure it out. And it's just taking the leap to do that, sometimes in a bit more of a public stage or a bit more in an official stage, not just knowing that you could figure it out, but giving yourself the permission. And I feel like a lot of times that's a thread that I see, especially with people considering career changes or big life changes, like going to part-time work or going back to full-time work, or really thinking about that, is not just waiting for the universe to give them a sign, but using that as a way to try to wait for permission, when the reality is nobody needs to grant you permission but yourself.
Yeah.
And we're always going to be our toughest critics. We're always going to be our toughest critics. So if you're not going to give yourself a chance, why are all these other people are believing in you?
Yeah.
All these other people who don't know you as well, who don't know what you've overcome, who don't know what drives you, who aren't aware of all of the different facets that make you incredible. Like, they're believing in you.
Yeah.
They're not standing in your way.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. You mentioned before that you made numerous transitions into different industries while you were working in marketing. Do you think the fact that you've made lots of transitions in the past made it easier for you to make this most recent one? Like, do you feel like you developed that muscle of like, you know what, I can move, and I've moved before and it will be fine? Did that help, do you think?
I think it helps for sure, because I'd proven to myself that I could do it. And also I could prove it to other people to hire me. And also I think it was taking big leaps in my personal life as well. It's funny you say, I can make the move. I've moved across the country into different places, sight unseen before, multiple times. So knowing I could figure that out as well, where to build a life, how to get all of that done in a short time frame, that's been helpful too. So not just knowing that I can apply my base experiences and the theories and the best practices that I know to whatever industry, right? I have the skills. I can learn an industry. It takes a lot longer to learn the skills than to learn the ins and out of an industry. And then having my figure outableness tested in other ways really did help me have the confidence, but also build up a bigger toolbox of ways to do it. So not just the emotional and psychological state, but also building bigger support systems,
yes,
building different ways of solving problems, asking for help, and then building bigger sets of practical tools that each role has their own kind of toolbox. The legal one I know is very different than the marketing one, but we all have our flavor. And so being able to develop both of those, I think, was a special recipe to be able to operate now from a place of, I don't know, and we'll see what happens. And that not being a scary thing, but actually quite an exciting thing. I'm also someone who really likes change. So I knew I was never going to stay in a very linear corporate path. I knew I was never going to be the person that worked 30 years at the same company and got my silver watch. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but I wasn't interested in it to begin with. And so for someone who gets itchy in the same situation for too long, I stopped looking at that as an issue or as a potential problem. Oh, what's wrong with me? Why do I like change so much? And embracing it and saying, I like it. So what doors does this allow me to see that other people might not even notice?
Yeah, I think that's so good, because there's that level of self-awareness where it's like, well, this is how I am, or this is my preference. So how do I lean into that rather than beat myself up about it and say, oh, I should be in a different position? How do you feel motherhood has, I don't want to, it's a big question to say, how has motherhood changed you? But just in terms of that, now having a different element of responsibility and juggling that with your current role, how are you finding that, and how is that different in terms of your approach to your work compared to how it was before?
I have gotten much better at setting boundaries. As someone who has been working remotely for a few years prior to the pandemic, and sometimes just for myself, not necessarily externally facing, has been valuable, and becoming a parent really accelerated that. And part of it was because I saw a much greater need it was born out of me, right? I have a tiny human being who can't survive without help. That was part of it, but it was also a conscious choice of wanting to be present for the things that mattered to me and to our family, and thinking, how can I design the life that I want to live, and where work factors into that and where relationships factor into that has been really a gift. It's been hard work and almost reevaluating what boundaries mean to me. I think I previously thought of boundaries as very fixed, hard lines and viewed them as a lot of times of saying no. And now I realize that boundaries can be changed. It's all flexible, it's all negotiable. And it's really about drawing the lines that make sense for you right then. So you can say no to opportunities or to structures, or say yes to things. That's another thing about setting a boundary. Sometimes setting a boundary is opening that piece up and just being very focused on what matters. And so I do think that parenthood has allowed me to really just focus on doing the right next thing right for my life.
Yeah.
And not trying to optimize everything.
Yes.
And being okay with not always being quote unquote the most productive, and embracing rest and play a lot more. I've really, through the joy she has in just playing whatever silly made up game, I've gotten a much healthier appreciation for stepping away from the screen, for giving myself that liminal space, which is time to recover, yes. And also, why our best ideas happen in the shower or while we're washing dishes or doing other things. It's because psychologically and just as human brains work, we need that distance and that space. And so in such a screen-oriented productivity, hustle culture world, which is so rampant in startups and technology, I actually really enjoy saying, I'm turning this off now. I'll see you in a little bit. And knowing and trusting myself that that's good for me. And I think that parenthood has definitely played a massive role in that.
Yeah, so good. And I love what you said there about designing the life that you want and just making decisions around what do I want it to look like, and then making adjustments and being flexible. Like, I think that is so good. I'd love for you to kind of share, what does it look like for you? Like, what does a day in the life of a startup co-founder look like? And I know it's going to be like, every day's different, but pick one day. Like, what would it typically look like for anyone who's thinking, what, if that was my reality, what would I actually be doing?
I think it's a lot easier to answer this because the days are a lot more similar since the pandemic, and there isn't travel and a lot of in-person meetings in the mix. So for me, my days start family oriented. I've got to get that kid ready, got to get her fed, dressed, all of that. So it starts very family oriented. I might check my phone just for any immediate urgent issues. Usually there's none. So I just kind of scan the news, get a feel for the day, check my calendar again in case there's anything I want to mentally prepare for, and then figure out the household situation, get everybody out the door or in their home office. And I found that I don't do my best creative, deep flow work first thing in the morning. So I use that time to go through tasks, to really triage the day, to follow up, to kind of tick off those small but important tasks on the to-do list. And for me, a lot of that is communication. So checking in on Slack with our social and content manager, checking our social channels, checking email, checking on our stats, seeing how we're doing in terms of site traffic, et cetera. And then I move usually into mid-morning into more of my deeper work, which is oftentimes looking at our business model, our strategy, and our growth plans. What marketing channels are working? Where are people getting stuck in our onboarding or in our process? Where might there be opportunities to engage people deeper? And so that's really the time that I do like my deep focus work. There are days where there are internal meetings or external meetings, and usually by mid morning I'm really in the zone. And a lot of days I have really incredible meetings where it's calls and opening the door for possibilities. So people who either have heard about OwnTrail or are interested, or I've heard about their business or their journey, and I'm interested in them, and maybe having an idea for a collaboration in mind, or working on a project together. but really having these collaborative calls. And then by afternoon, I'm usually checking in with our team. We'll do project status meetings on new features that we're updating or new campaigns that we're launching. And all throughout this day, I have been in pretty much constant contact with my co-founder. We are messaging each other all the time, both to discuss things we're working on, to run ideas by each other, to say, hey, I've got a crazy idea. What do you think? And also just to be humans. We talk every day. So when we do have our first call, since we're not working in the same space, we save time at the beginning. Like we very much intentionally at the very beginning check in as humans first, unless something is on fire somewhere, metaphorically in the business. And we were just like, how are you? Like, how are you feeling? What's weighing on you? What are you excited about? And we check in that way first. Okay. And that's been a really important thing that we don't just do that with each other. We do that with our team. And just making sure people feel seen as people first, because then the problems of a business are so much easier to solve, especially when you can understand how everybody's feeling approaching them. And it doesn't have to be, we're not doing therapy, but it's just like, hey, how are you? Oh, I slept really badly last night because the dog was barking all night. Oh, I'm sorry. How can I help? Yeah. And then usually I'm wrapping out my day with creative work. So doing copywriting, playing around with new designs. It's one of the double-edged swords of being an entrepreneur is you are all the departments. And so oftentimes, I'm not outsourcing things to a designer. Our site and our product is designed by our amazing, talented designer. But, I'm helping craft social media posts, or I'm deciding I want to test an email campaign. So I'm going to design it and write it myself. So a lot of times it's using skills I acquired early on in my career. And sometimes it's trying something completely new. Like right now I'm in the process of implementing a new data analytics platform. Haven't done this one before, but I've done data analytics in the past. So I'm pulling from that knowledge and embracing the, I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it sounds so awesome. And I love that you have that check-in with your co-founder and just having that team dynamic where you actually care. And I guess that's, pushing forward the culture that you want to build in your business and that you want to kind of trickle down to everybody. So good. So inspiring. So if people want to find out more about like OwnTrail and set up their own trails and like tell us a bit more about where they should go and why they should kind of embark on that journey.
Yeah. So just go to owntrail.com. We're at OwnTrail on all the social medias as well. And create your trail, and it's totally free. That's very much part of what we're doing is we don't think that access to be able to share your journey through life or explore the journeys of other people should be gated by economics. We think that that's information that everyone should have to feel solidarity, to feel less alone in their experiences, to see people like them in places they aspire to make meaningful connections. So yeah, just go to OwnTrail and create your trail. It's actually a really powerful and fun exercise. And it's really the seed of everything that we're building. And it's a visualization. So you choose the milestones that are important to your life, both personal and professional, and get to talk about them on your terms. And they don't have to be greeting card or LinkedIn anniversary type of milestones. It can be becoming a parent. It can be a trip that changed your life. It can be personal growth, an aha moment, quiet or loud. It can be a relationship. So really having a space to tell your story in a way that's completely yours versus fitting into boxes. We all have our CV self where we play the hits. And we have to account for every year. We don't want to say like, oh, there was a gap here. Here's why. There's no dates on OwnTrail unless you want to add them. So you don't have to account for your time. You just get to reflect on your journey and put it out there to inspire and connect with other women. We're a community centered on women. We are not exclusive to women, but we're centered on women's experiences because there are, number one, so many platforms and so much of the world has been built by and for men primarily, which creates a different dynamic. And also there are some experiences that as women and anyone with a female identified experience, there are unique things. And so we really wanted to hold space for that. But by creating this space that's very centered on women's journeys, there's a great sense of trust and safety, as well as the degree of authenticity in the trails on OwnTrail. Just every day, I'm literally honored when I see a new trail come in. I just am like that person's biggest fan. And I'm like, oh, they're so cool. They're so amazing. That's so fascinating. And I'm also just truly honored that people feel like they can be themselves. And I really am proud and grateful that OwnTrail is a place where people can really be seen. And I think that that's a fundamental human need. We all want to be seen as our full, real selves. And so much of technology, while it's helped accelerate so many things and build connections and express ourselves, OwnTrail is a place where you can let go of the social media perfect. You don't have to, you can embrace your mess. You can embrace your I don't know. You can share where you figured it out, not just showing that you bounced back, or that it's not where you can just play the hits. You can play the B-sides. You can have the demos. You can talk, you can play the tuba poorly for the first time. It is a safe space to really share all of those pieces of your journey and to find a group of truly inspiring, authentic, and really supportive women who are there to cheer you on and help you reach whatever you're aspiring to next.
Oh, I just love it. It's just so, so good. Like when I first came across you, we met on Clubhouse, didn't we? And then like looked at what you were doing. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So everyone listening, you need to go and check out OwnTrail. It's so, so incredible. And yeah, like you said, so, so inspiring to see other people's journeys and then have the opportunity to share your own. So the last thing I wanted to ask you, do you have a quote, a saying, a mantra, or something that like really sticks out to you, or that you like to share with people that you can share with us?
That's such a good question. I feel like I have so many quotes written down like by famous people, and I'm like, I love that. And I can never remember them. So I'm going to say a saying that has stuck with me the past few months, oddly enough from Clubhouse, which I'm not on Clubhouse that often, but there are a few times that it's just like been this serendipitous kind of perfect universe moment. And it was actually from a tarot reader that was doing a Clubhouse room for founders. And I was like, great, sure, why not? I'm open. What's going to happen here? And she read me in like 2 seconds. And she said, be like water. And I thought about that and I was like, oh, water is powerful, but also you can't try to force your way. If you think about the ocean, like you've got to move and flow with it. You can't try to force your way. You can't try to be static. You need to be like water and move with what happens. And that's been really a great grounding point for me in this journey, but just more importantly in this life, is to be like water. We don't have to fight everything all the time. We don't have to force it. We can just let go and see what happens. And that's also another kind of strength.
That is so profound. That really is.
Shout out to Lolo B. Knowin, because she knows. Lolo knows.
Wow. I'm going to be reflecting on that. That is so, so, so good. Thank you for sharing. So I am going to give the audience all of your links to the website and everything, and the social media platforms. I'll put those in the show notes. So I just want to say thank you so much, Katie. It's been awesome chatting to you, hearing about your journey, hearing about OwnTrail. I'm excited. So thank you for being here.
Yes. Always so amazing chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
How awesome is Katie? It was so, so good to hear about her journey and how things have really unfolded for her in her career. And I hope it inspires you. I hope you recognize from what she shared that you don't always have to have the end goal figured out before you start making moves, before you start connecting with people, before you start having conversations. You don't have to have it all figured out, because it's the journey and the unfolding of it that can often lead you to the destination and the place that you need to be. So keep showing up, keep having conversations, keep connecting with people, and you never know where it might lead you. If you want to connect with Katie and learn more about OwnTrail, I'm going to put the link to the website and to her LinkedIn profile in the show notes for today's episode 134. So go to the website and check those out. All right, that's all from me today. I will speak to you very, very soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Career Changemaker podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love for you to let me know what your biggest takeaway has been. So head over to Instagram, tag me at Career Changemaker, and let me know your thoughts. What did you like most about today's episode? I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, keep working towards your career goals, and we will speak very, very soon.